I am outside hanging out. Since it's still a cool weather day, I want to get out here and harvest as much as I can of these turnip greens. Now, these will absolutely bulb. They are forage turnips. I bought them from Johnny Seeds. They're great for feeding animals. You can also feed people with them. They're just a farm seed and they will bulb out, but this time of year, once the weather starts getting hot, they get woody, they require a lot of water to grow properly. And honestly, I just like eating the turnip greens. I like freezing them without blanching them first. I just like to freeze them. And then what I do is while they're still frozen, I'll grab a handful or however much I want, and I'll scrunch them up into tiny little pieces and throw them into anything I'm cooking. Throw them into meat for burgers, spaghetti, stews, soups, you name it. You can put them in anything, and 98% of the time no one's going to notice unless you use way too much, because the turnipy flavor, it gets kind of bitter as it gets hotter. But I really like cooking them that way for a couple of reasons. One, it's easy to add greens and to put healthy, nutritious fillers into your food without having to do it, say, using pasta or anything else like that, especially if you have to be careful about what you eat for any reason whatsoever, health, diet, etc. And also, as these leaves get bigger, especially in this warmer time of year, you can see the little holes in them, which probably means flea beetles. You also can see aphids on them. This one actually has a little something crawling on it. Now, am I going to spray these? No, absolutely not. You guys know me, you know that's not what I'm gonna do, but I am gonna start picking them. And I don't necessarily want to pull up the whole turnip. You can see where it would be bulbing right here. These are those purple top turnips. One of my favorites, and so easy to grow. And if you've seen some of my older videos, you may recognize these turnips from what I feed my ducks and geese. And so here's my little bowl. It's just a large mixing bowl from my kitchen. And I have my handy scissors here, which, believe it or not, are not kitchen scissors. They are just, let me zoom out some. They're not my kitchen scissors. They're actually just some like sewing scissors that I use for fabric. But I like them so much that I bought some for my kitchen because they're easy to sharpen. They're just a few bucks at the store, so it was no great loss, and they really get the job done. So there are two ways you can eat this. You can come through and you can cut all of the leaves, small or large. You can use the smaller leaves as salad leaves, but as they get bigger, I don't, because they do have some little spines on them, and the texture is not as good as salad and everything else. But realistically, it's getting hot, and I don't know how much more heat these guys can take. I know that there's more, but really it's just a good time of year to take out some more of these plants and get in maybe some heat-loving plants like my squash, which you guys have seen a few times, kind of over here. What else do I like besides my squash? I don't know, I really like some tomatoes, but it's not quite warm enough for that. But definitely like getting the squash out here, things of that nature. You can plant bush cucumbers in their place. They have some really cool small bush cucumbers that would fit below all of these. That's a really good option for warm weather. Peas, like Crowder peas, are a warm weather crop, also known as field peas, bush beans. All of that could go here below everything. Oh man, I'm about to make this harvesting video, you know, and I look up and look at this. They have broke through the temporary fence and are out grazing in areas they're not supposed to. Now I have to get them in really fast. This is crazy. Because I don't know if you've ever had to deal with escape geese. It's not fun. What are you guys doing? What have y'all done? How did they manage to pull all this down is beyond me. I can actually see. So what they've done is, these are the zip ties that held on this fence, because it's just cheap fencing, right? They ripped holes in the fence. They pulled on the fence until they tore a big hole in it and caused it to fall. So that means right now these guys cannot be out here grazing. Because of this big mess. Now they can just come out in the front yard, which is not cool. So you can see this is their area, and I've shown it before more recently. You booger heads. Man, good thing I was out here filming. And look at this bumblebee. Oh, way to go. Over here somewhere. It's not impressed with me. I get nervous about bumblebees, guys. There are so many out here in the garden, and I've been stung by bees. Bumblebees are huge. That's not a bee I want to be stung by. Okay, y'all have to go back up. Y'all have to go up because you tore open the fence, and you can't be outside with a torn open fence. Go, go, everybody go. Look at them. They're like, we're not going up. We want to be out here. Yep, I want you guys out here, or I wouldn't have spent all that time building the fence up, but... And of course they're going to run towards that area that's open. Y'all have to go up. Not okay. Come on. Especially you guys. It looks like it's probably the babies that did all of that. So they're just going to have to go hang out in here for now. And I need to get more pine and shavings and stuff down. I just haven't had the chance. So you can see why I kind of wanted them grazing instead of being in their run. But, of course, they had other plans completely. So, come on, guys. I really should be going in to get my children to help me, but because I'm worried that these guys will escape into the front yard and we're in the city, I would be in so much trouble. I'm not looking forward to getting a fine because these guys wanted to be animals. They wanted to be ducks. They're just like kids. They want to go in the places they can't have. They want to be geese, you know. Okay, guys, so that's how we keep this gate open. It's just a 2.5 gallon bucket with this partially broken brick in it. But now you guys have to hang out in here until Larry gets home and can help me fix the fence. And luckily my brother-in-law, he has 10 acres, him and his beautiful wife. And he has a bunch of fencing lying around, over 4 feet tall. Metal fencing that's over like 150 feet of it, and so he's gonna let us have that to fence in the rest of our backyard, and we're gonna gladly take it. Hi, quackers. Who doesn't like to hang out with the rest of the flock? They're mean to him. He's as big as some of the geese, but the geese obviously don't want him hanging around, and our Drake is very rude towards him. Quackers was supposed to be a meat duck. You know, we got him and $20 for a gosling. And he was supposed to go in a freezer, to be perfectly honest, but my kids named him and fell in love with him. And we had a bunch of Pekin ducks eggs, so we put those in the incubator, hoping to be able to get a second flock of just Pekin ducks for meat production and to sell them. And of course we only have 5 eggs out of that whole thing that are viable. So I'm not even sure that we're going to get any. It was so sad to have 60-something eggs and none of them even looked fertile, but something went seriously wrong. And then on top of that, the incubator shot up to like 103 degrees, which was insane, and I don't know what happened because I know it was set properly and I checked it. So I'm just like, I need a break from hatching. It was kind of frustrating, as you can imagine, having several incubators and 5 viable eggs out of that, especially after having such good hatch rates lately. So, you guys, what am I going to do with y'all? Such a mess, such a mess. They look so innocent, don't they? Like, they don't understand. And they probably don't, you know, they just want to be out. And they don't want the area that they have, even though they have all this massive area, guys. This is 1,000 square foot of temporary fencing, and there's still so much to eat. And you can see that they even had the pot out here where they were given some of the treats left over from dinner, which was made out of food from our garden. So it's all good. But look, this whole area, like the fencing from all the way here, all the way over, these are each 4 foot, so that's 12 feet. Plus this, they just completely ripped off the zip ties. You know, they pulled on it until the zip ties ripped the fence. So the zip ties are still intact, but the fence is torn. And this is that deer fencing. So remember I said it was like a cheap temporary fix? This is what I mean when I don't see how it can keep deer out when it can't even keep geese out. And geese, if you don't know, they actually have teeth on their tongues. So they can rip through a fence really easily. So funny. And want to know what they're after? Actually, it's not just all of this grass in the front yard, guys. This is the prize that they're trying to get. Right here, the banana plants. These, you can see they're outside of the fence. It's because these are my son's banana plants. He's not big on gardening, you know. He's more of the cook of the house, the big brother that helps with the chores. But he's not big on homesteading. He burns very easily. He's not a sun person. He gets very exhausted outside when it's warm. So what he likes is these, and they grow in the heat, so he'll come outside when they get really tall and kind of water them and watch over them. They make him happy, but I mean, he just can't be out here to manage them, you know, when it's super hot outside. And so they kind of just manage themselves for the most part. They're set up so that the water from the duck pen flows into them. But this is what they want. This is what the ducks and geese are after. They want so badly is this. And you can see this is their fence. So before they weren't even able to get through this fence, except for when they try to, like the babies could stick their heads through certain gaps. But now they can because of this extended area. So I guess we have to figure some other way because this is not working. I'm guessing we're going to have to get that fencing from my brother-in-law and separate everything into paddocks and just let them kind of range through each paddock over time. And I know some of you all haven't heard certain terms that we use because maybe you're new to gardening or homesteading or have never raised livestock. A paddock is really simple. For me, it means just cutting up our backyard or any kind of land that you have into sections that are gated so you can let the animals into one section, and then when that section kind of needs rest, it has too much poop, been overly grazed, any of that, you can just open the fence gate and let them into the next area or paddock and let them graze that. So it kind of keeps everything from being overgrazed or getting any kind of issues like that. Honestly, this was just supposed to be a harvesting video because I was telling you guys a couple days ago that I feel like I show so much of the process and not enough of the harvesting, and so I wanted to harvest more. I wasn't expecting for the birds to get out. So you can pinch these off just like this, and you can do that especially when they get bigger. And look, I accidentally pulled one out. No big deal. Do you know that all of turnips, including the roots, I mean, even the underdeveloped root bulbs are edible, you know? So even if you have turnips that grow all these tops and they didn't bulb, the root part is still edible. It doesn't matter. And you can fry up the whole thing if you want to. So you can come through just picking off all the large leaves like I'm doing right now. And that is one way to harvest. But like I said, the larger leaves get kind of spiny. And so you know, it's not always easy to eat them in salads or things. That's when you really want to cook them down. And look already, like just picking it, that's a lot. But me, on the other hand, I like to do it with scissors. And you see what I mean? These are smaller. So if these were all young still and I wasn't too concerned about getting bulbs, you can come through and cut most of these off, or you can come through and cut off the leaves over time and still let them bulb. But I don't want spicy turnips because it is already hot outside. These are going to get woody, they're going to get spicy, and they're going to need a lot of water. And honestly, instead of worrying about making sure they don't have aphids or anything else, I am going to just harvest them and keep cutting them down until, you know, they pretty much give up. And then I'm going to place something in here. I do have strawberries growing underneath all of this that I recently planted. And so the hope is that eventually the strawberries will take over under all these blackberries. But for now, I'll probably put some like Hell's Best cantaloupe in here. What else? Like I said, you could use Crowder peas and everything else. I actually have quite a few different types of seeds, so I have options. So what I'm going to do is, see my handy dandy scissors right here, I'm just going to cut them off. You know, and I wanted to warn you guys, you need to watch out when you clean these for a couple of things. One is grass. Look at this crabgrass just hanging out in here. And 2 is insects. I do not just pick these and put them in the freezer. I wash them. At first I soak them in my sink, and sometimes both sides of the sink will be completely filled because I have so many turnips, greens in there. And so I do that, and then I pulled up another one, but it doesn't matter. Whatever I don't take inside, I'm just going to feed to the animals over the fence, you know. So I soak them, and yesterday I had not soaked the fennel yet that I had harvested, a couple of fennel bulbs. And so when I pulled them, I brought them on the counter, you know, and just went about my day. Well, last night I was like, okay, I need to check out these fennel because they really need to be soaked and everything so that I can process them. And I walked over to the fennel, and there was one of those black swallowtail caterpillars that I made the video about several days later, just hanging out on one of my large fennel bulbs, and I brought it inside not realizing. Guys, if you're not checking out your produce thoroughly, stuff like that can happen. You can find things in your produce that you do not want to eat, like caterpillars, snails, slugs, probably some aphids. And I do get aphids on my produce. I wash them off, you know, just wash them off. And if the aphids are so bad that you don't feel comfortable washing off, and you have birds or geese, throw it out to them. Let them eat it. They'll eat the insects and all. They don't care. You know, that's what they do, especially ducks. So I just want to kind of warn you, because anyone who's not grown food before, and if you're like me, I don't like caterpillars. I'm not afraid of a lot of things. I'm not necessarily afraid of caterpillars either. I just, I don't know. They're cool, but they're not something I want to handle or find in my salad, for goodness sakes. That would be horrible. And some of these caterpillars are green, and they're really hard to see. In case you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm picking up some of this crabgrass. And when you have no dig beds like this, look how easily it really just pulls out pretty easily. Boop. No big deal. So I'm not a fan of that. And I definitely recommend filling your sink full of cold water. Now, do not use hot water because it will cause your plants to wilt. And these are cool weather crops. So I fill my sink full of cool water, and I soak all my plants. Now, first I'll try to give them a rinse to get all of the dirt off, especially if I'm harvesting the bulbs. And then I do go through my leaves like a couple at a time. It's easier if they're big leaves, and make sure there aren't anything in them that I don't want, anything like that. Not too many aphids or whatnot, which is easier to do when you have large leaves because they fill up so much more space, right? A couple of large leaves, it almost has the same amount of filling as just a handful of these small leaves. So it is easier when you have large leaves, and when you have small leaves, you can just kind of dig through a couple at a time like this. But trust me, there's few things that can turn a new homesteader off and away from homesteading faster. If they're not insect people, then finding some kind of snail or grub or insect in their food after cooking it or pickling it or freezing it. So I just want to warn you ahead of time. I know a lot of times, especially if we love homesteading, we make it seem like the whole process is beautiful and easy and worth it. Yeah, it's worth it, but it's exhausting. You know, it's beautiful, but it's hard, and there are gross aspects to it, things that other people don't want to deal with, and if they did, then everybody would be homesteading, right? Because let's be real honest, there are people who just aren't into homesteading. That's okay. You know, I say do what you can, but if it's really not for you, it's not for you. You know, but also, guys, if it is for you, make sure it stays that way by checking, you know, soaking your plants and in that nice cool water. And I wouldn't do it for too long. I would say no more than like 4 to 6 hours. Honestly, I tried soaking them overnight a couple of times, but here's what I found. I found that doing so causes them to get slimy, and they don't last as long when you take them out. And I also like to pat them dry if I'm going to eat them fresh and put them in a sealed container, but they only last for a few days without the bulbs on them. So what I like to do is to take a gallon Ziploc bag, a big one, and after they're washed, I don't even bother drying them. I just kind of shake them off, and I put handfuls until it's so full that I can't squeeze anything into it, and then I squeeze the air out of it and go back and just throw it in the freezer. I don't even bother to pre-cook it, because here's the deal. I know that they're gonna get mushy whenever they're cooked, but I'm going to be taking it when it's still frozen and crinkling it up into the tiniest bits you've ever seen and throwing that into stuff to cook it, so it won't matter, you know. And if you may have heard me say this before, but if you haven't, and I know we have a lot of new subscribers and a whole lot of people watching, so I want to say this. I'm not going to be harvesting everything. I'm going to be harvesting this section of this bed. Now, this bed is 64 square foot total, this one bed. It also has 4 blackberry bushes into it. They're thornless blackberries, Arkansas Traveler blackberries. And they produce on both this year's and last year's cane. So you have, if you are in a zone where you just need to cut them down for the winter straight to the ground because you're having pest problems, it's fine, because they're going to grow back. They're going to produce fruit on that first year. So if you're in a climate that's too cold and you're afraid that they won't last through your winter, don't worry about it. These are also perennial plants. So they come back year after year after year, which is amazing. So you see I'm harvesting it several different ways because I want to show you all the possibilities. Now if I wanted to, you see how it kind of looks rough? I could pull all this out, just harvest it all. But I might just see if some of them come back, you know, and let them be close together. No big deal. I'm eating the stems and everything because that's all edible. And so I'm saying this because look how much room is left in this bed. This is just one side of it. Right here, and there's more on the other side, but I mostly have carrots and things growing over there. So you can see, I mean, I even have my red mustard here. I have strawberries hidden in between these turnips, and also lettuce that are growing that reseeded that I grew here last year from the plants I grew. So there's just a large variety that is being grown here, and in a small area. So don't think because you have a very small space to grow food that you can't get as much food as you want and kind of max out your growing space. And I'm sure I've said this because sometimes I have a tendency to repeat myself. I'm showing you all these different ways to harvest because for one, that's just how I harvest in many different ways. And for two, because you're going to have different ways you want to harvest. You're going to want to pull some, you're going to want to pinch off big leaves. You may want to eat these small leaves for salad. You know, and honestly, it's easier to cut small leaves than it is to break them, but they do break quite easily, so no worries, especially these larger leaves. So I'm just kind of showing you that there are so many different ways to do this. So that's just one small section. That doesn't even include everything. Look at this. Just throw that to the side. I mean, there is a lot still. So this is what I've harvested so far. And look at all this. I still have to harvest all of this. All of that right there. And then look at this is my giant mustard. It's a giant red mustard. It's supposed to have a garlicky flavor. I planted this mustard last, you can see an ant on there, last fall, and it never came up, and then it just suddenly came up. So with these, you can pinch off these outer leaves and eat them. Now they're a little spicier. These you can cook with some different things, some sausage, some beans. You can eat them fresh still. They are a little spicier and a little more garlicky. And these smaller leaves will keep coming back right here. But I'm not worried about that because it is getting hot, and before too much longer, they won't grow well here. But look at that. Aren't these beautiful? Oh, they smell good. They're a little, I don't know. Oh, those are strong. Yeah. A little bit of bitterness in the leaves. Yes, I just took a bite out of it, and oh, I'm getting that kind of horseradishy flavor after a minute. It has some bite, so I would say those are probably something that I need to cook down. But look inside of all this. I'm praying there's no bumblebees, guys. And please don't be any bumble or honeybees. Look at this. It's a curly leaf lettuce right there. A whole lettuce plant that reseeded itself. And it's kind of hidden in between all this. You can even see some of the blackberry that's come up, created a new plant. So when I move all these turnips, I'll be able to let these lettuce grow. But because these lettuce types like that are really fragile, they're kind of like the butterleaf lettuce, and if you've grown those, you know that they just don't store well. It's really like a cut and eat immediately kind of food. But because I have such a large family, when I harvest a lettuce, I either need a lot of smaller lettuce plants to harvest the outer leaves from, I mean a lot, or I need an entire head, sometimes 2 heads of lettuce if everyone is eating lettuce that night. And over here you can see, look at that, there's that butterhead lettuce right there, and I harvested several leaves from it yesterday because my husband, he likes his lettuce a certain way, and if it has any cracks, browning, if it starts to get better, he is not interested. And because of that, I like to come out here and harvest lettuce that I know that he's going to eat to make things easier. And look at this. There are a lot. This one's actually starting to bulb right down here. There are a lot of larger turnips way down here. Turnip leaves. I mean, oh my goodness. My bowl's already getting full just from harvesting up front before I came down here to kind of show you guys. And look, I also have my grape plant up here. It's getting leaves. I'm not sure if I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Do you know you can eat grape leaves? You can stuff them. How amazing is that? So it's just another food source. And look at this. All of these blackberries. So this is the second year plant. Like a second year vine, you can see just how heavy they crop. These grew last year. And I mean, that's a lot of fruit. And then here are some of the first year fruits right here. Starting to produce. This is the greenery that's currently growing. So you can kind of see like the second year, the darker woodier wood versus, let's see, this one right here, which is also massive, but it's actually really soft wood, and that's from this year. So you can see like getting different amounts of growth and the different size between the berries. It's a lot of food production, but I'm showing you all this because it's all in this one bed. So this one side right here is only 32 square foot. Once you add the other side, it's 64. And on the other side, look at this. All of these carrots that are growing beneath here. And as you know, we eat the tops and the roots to the carrots. So that is a lot of food in one spot. So I don't want you guys to think that you can't grow food because you're limited on space. You can see just how much we're growing. And believe it or not, already all of this bowl is full. Look, even if I push it down, like I'm smushing it in there. This is not a little bowl. So I think that gives you a pretty good idea of how much food is in this space all together. I can't believe it. I think I'm gonna have to clear out some more space out of in my kitchen just to harvest everything that I need to harvest here, because there's no way, like I don't even think it'll fit in both sides of my sink to wash it off. So what I may just have to go ahead and harvest a lot of this and come back after I wash this and pack it away and get more. And obviously I have to go through this because I don't know if you're seeing it, but there's quite a bit of crabgrass in here. And if you guys want to, like I said, this can be composted, I mean, fed to your birds. There are just so many options. So here's like some of the crabgrass right here. Pulling it out of my hand while holding the phone. It's funny. Like that. And it'll be really easy after all these are gone to kind of weed this area out, and then I'll start putting in my other plants and transitioning to warmer weather crops. I just don't have any starts right now because I just plant out every start that I have. So if I don't want to plant from seed, I'm going to have to go ahead and start some plants inside, which I do have some seed potting mix, so I can do that, no big deal. I just haven't done it, to be really honest. Okay, this bowl is full. It's overflowing even after smushing it down. So here's just that small section I've done. It's not even a third of the side, not even a fourth of the side done yet. And look how much is left. It really is incredible. So as much as I'd love just to keep showing and going on and on about the amount of food we're harvesting, I think you guys kind of get the gist of just how much food there is that's being harvested and stored. And real fast, before I end this video, let me run inside and actually show you my freezer, what it looks like when I put the food in there. Okay, so here it is in my freezer. What I've done is I've washed these, and then afterwards I put the date on them and just pack them in here to the freezer. Now you can freeze dry these, make them into powders, all sorts of things. I don't have a freeze dryer, and I don't have a dehydrator available to really worry about these things right this second. So instead of trying to dehydrate all these, I like my method of just freezing them and crushing them up. But you can kind of see I've labeled it here, and there are 9 of these in here, and this just has all sorts of random stuff. I also have an upright freezer, and then the freezer to my refrigerator. So, and you can kind of see I have other stuff like popsicles and all that in here. So if that just gives you an idea, but I just kind of wanted to show you what I meant by this. I'm not going to keep showing you the work because there's so much to do. At some point, I will get a tripod because I love watching people harvest things in the garden and listening to that beautiful calming music. Especially when I'm kind of trying to do schoolwork or whatever. I want to kind of watch TV or use it as background noise. So I'll probably do that just because I really love it myself one of these days. But there's just so much work to get done today, and I don't have time to really focus on anything else. So I kind of wanted to just show off just how much food you can get from one space. If this is just one bowl, I can guarantee you just from that one side, there'll be 4 or 5 bowls like this today alone. My freezer is going to be completely full of greens, which is why I'd really like to save up money to get a freeze dryer so I can kind of powder everything and put it on my counter to make pastas and everything else. That's just not an option right now for me financially, or just really, it's just one more thing to worry about. So I'm going to keep freezing them like this, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys what is possible. And I hope you guys enjoyed that little clip of the geese and ducks acting crazy. That was completely unexpected. If you don't hear the surprise in my voice, I'm absolutely surprised. So, as always, thank you so much for joining us. I know we have so much going on this time of year as we build and harvest, and guys, it's only March, so I can't wait to show you everything else we have going on during the season, and I thank you guys so much for joining us.